It's the JT Cho Show!
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Still really hot. Hello, welcome back to the JT Show. This is episode 17, I do believe. Today is Tuesday, February 11th, 2020. And this is definitely the 17th episode of the JT Show. You know, things I need to prepare for is to write it down somewhere. I can read it as I start my intro. So today I had a day off and I tried to paint, and I need to go back to basics because I can't blend colors for diddly. Okay, but painting's still fun. I'm horrible at blending colors sometimes. Like I was making like mushes of dark brown gross colors because I don't know. I need to. I did this over here fine, but this one was it was awful. So I learned a lesson at least. Always get better for next time. So today, what I want to talk about is today's going to be all about anime, by the way. And I know if you're like Pepper, I know automatically what you're going to say. When I'm like, hey, I'm watching anime, I know what you say, Pepper. But today's going to be an episode all about anime. So at the moment, I promised this one guy, Travis, a.k.a. Jesus, I promised him that I was going to pick up One Piece. So I did. I picked up One Piece, and I'm on 210 right now, and I know it's at like 700 or 900 or whatever the crazy number is. We're almost there. We're almost 1/3 of the way there. I'm watching it all in subs, so I got to read it. I can't just like text on my phone and not pay attention, which I don't like to do anyway because you miss some of the story. But, you know, right now you can hit 3 episodes in an hour. So if you take 210, you divide it by 3, so that's 70 hours. If that's right, then I've watched 70 hours, but I feel like that's wrong. But I was never a mathematician. So, anywho, so what I want to do today is I want to talk about the first 200 episodes and how I feel about it. If you've never watched the show and you just want to, you know, here's a summary from a guy who's picking it up for the first time. So I'm no subject matter expert on One Piece. I'm going to butcher a bunch of names and I'm going to describe them some ways that you guys probably, I didn't write a script or nothing, but I'm going to go down, I'm going to use my phone. So when you see me look down, I'm going to be using my phone to not really read the description of the titles, but to like chronologically go in order, so I don't really like skip over anything. But I'm not going to go too far in depth. But today's episode is all about me breaking down the first 210 episodes of One Piece. So see you later, Pepper. See you later, V. Probably a lot of other people, but today's all about anime. So One Piece. So episode 1. I'm not gonna read the titles off for every episode, but I'm Luffy. I'm the man who's going to be king of the pirates, or the man who's going to become king of the pirates. So, you meet Luffy, and you meet this other cat, who's Luffy's like first friend in the show, and they're on this like little island, and you start getting a little bit of backstory on Luffy, and basically Luffy, he ate this thing called the gum fruit, and or devil's fruit, or whatever you want to call it. And see, I'm already murdering basic things about the show. But anyways, so basically you can eat these devil fruits and then you get like superpowers essentially. And then the sea hates them though, so it takes away your ability to swim. So you can always dive at the sea. But literally their powers can be like Luffy's a rubber man. He's made out of rubber. I know he uses it in like crazy awesome ways, like later down the line, way farther than I'm ahead in, but you know, you gotta bear through. You just gotta keep eating up episodes that you don't like. Anyways, this is where you also you meet Zorro in the first 2 episodes. So Zorro's kind of in a pickle, we'll call it, and Luffy doesn't care that he's in a restricted area. He's like, hey, I'm gonna go rescue this guy. His friend that he made always wanted to be in the Navy, and the guy who's in charge of this island, he's in the Navy, but he's kind of corrupt, so he's not really protecting the people like he should be. He's kind of holding them all hostage. So Kobe and Luffy each have their own dreams. You get introduced to Zorro. He uses a 3-sword style. He puts it in between his teeth. Yeah, dude, whatever. It's anime. And so ultimately, Luffy defeats. He's got a battle axe for a hand, so he defeats him. Zoro is part of his crew now, and the Kobe stays on the island, and his plan is to join the Marines. So, move on to episode 3, and then you meet Nami. Captain Morgan's also out for Luffy and Zorro. And, oh no, that's his name. Yeah, Captain Morgan. So they defeated Captain Morgan, and then 4th episode, you learn some backstory about Luffy. You meet a red-haired pirate. You see his crew. He holds himself humble, even though he knows he can, throw the smoke at these dudes. He's just like, we'll just laugh it off because you're not really worth my sweat. Then you get to episode 5 and you get the episodes. You kind of get a touch for Nami, and then she kind of takes off. So you've got the backstory of Luffy, some red-haired pirate, why he wears his hat, and then episode 5 comes, and then it's your first devil fruit guy besides Luffy, for a pirate, and his name's he's Captain Buggy. So Captain Buggy, it's kind of like a Captain Buggy yard. Zoro defeats some circus dude on a unicycle, and they free Luffy from the cage. Zoro shows that he's sick, and even though he's got a few injuries, Captain Buggy, by the way, can disassemble himself, so you can never stab him because he can just split himself up into smaller pieces. So Captain Buggy, they have this little arc with him, and cool, you're getting a feel for Luffy and how certain things can affect him, but ultimately, these first few arcs were tough to watch because that the smoke gets way heavier way down the line. So they defeat Buggy. They save the town. There's a moment with a dog. It's poetic. And they end up meeting their next crewmate, which is going to be Uso. So at this time, they've got Nami, they've got Zoro, and they're sailing to find a bigger boat now, and they run into Captain Usopp, who's this... he kind of sucks right now. He's innovative and thinks outside the box, but he's a coward, and he's weak, and I'll get to more to what he says later down the line, but he's a liar. They meet him on this island. There's some kids. There's a butler. The butler's bad. They call him the cats or something like that. The Black Cat Pirates. And so he's been in hiding for 3 years, and he's about to kill this rich girl and hypnotize her first with this dude who uses Django, and he's got this ultimate scheme he's been working on for 3 years, but Luffy just happened to be sailing the island at the same time, and then because Usopp's a liar, and typical don't cry wolf, and well, no one even believed him, and then Luffy and them had to stop the pirates from raiding the village, and then they saved the day. So the rich heiress who has a thing for Captain Usopp, she lets her butler, who's got a sheep head, build him a boat, and then they've got the Going Merry. That's what I believe it's called. I'm probably wrong. So anyway, he defeats this Black Cat guy, and the guy didn't really care about his pirate crew, and he can move fast. But again, you're just dude, this guy's nothing compared to what Luffy's going to be later down the line, you know what I'm saying? So during this arc, you also find out more about Zoro's past and how he had that girl who died who was better than him, and he said he was going to be the best, and like there's no one ever was. But it was her goal to be the best swordsman, but she's like, I'm a female, and he's like, it doesn't matter. He's like, you're a swordsman. And so, but she died, so like he like carries the sword from her, the dojo that they trained in. And he's learning three swords. Like he's got three sword style, but he's gonna be the best swordsman. So he's like always working out, and he's got like crazy strength. He can pretty much compete with Luffy at this time. They're like pretty OP characters from the start. So then they're sailing along, singing their song, and they meet Sanji, and they meet Sanji on this boat, and it's a big chef boat. The old captain of the boat, he used to be a pirate, sailed the Grand Line. Sanji is this chef from a little boy. Heard about this like rumor thing called like the All Blue or something like that, where like all the fish in the sea swim together, so you can cook the freshest of fish on the spot, any fish you want, because that's where all the fish meet. Yeah, what a dream to have. Second worst. And he's his cook, and since he's a cook, he doesn't want to damage his hands because you cook with your hands, so he just kicks with his feetsies. But he's got super strong kicks. You learn about his backstory. His whole motto is never waste food because he's a chef, but he's also almost starved to death. They do a backstory on how him and the captain met, and basically the captain threw away his old life of being a pirate with two legs just to be like a chef with one leg and like look over Sanji. So like Sanji's like, you know, he's got this backstory going on, and there's this, I think his name is Don Krieg. He shows up, and he shows up to this ship, and he's like, his like lieutenant. He's like, hey man, we're starving. We haven't eaten whatever days, and even though they couldn't pay, like Sanji's like, I never want to see another human being go hungry. And then they come back and they attack the ship, and then Luffy's like, hey man, let's throw some smoke. And then Zorro, he meets like this dude called Hawkeye, who basically Don Krieg had like a fleet of like 500 ships that went to the Grand Line, and then like one little dude in a rinky-dink boat like just sailed up and just gave him that heat real quick right off the rip, and like sent them all back. And so like basically Don Krieg, he was like feared of the East, and like he's got a fleet of 500 ships. He came back with like one big ass broken ship. So, and that was just from one dude. So Luffy's, you know, throwing hands, and he's taking care of business, and Sanji's protecting the ship, and he's taking care of business. Zorro sees Hawkeye, shows his true determination, so you learn about his character, and like, you know, he doesn't care, he's gonna do it, or you know, he's betting his life on it. So Hawkeye's like, give me your name, and he's like, Zorro, and he's like, you know, I'm gonna hold this title of #1 swordsman until you like can beat me, essentially. So get a lot better. Then Luffy comes over here because he's like, oh, I thought you were going to kill him. And he's like, nah. And because what happened was he's like, hey, man, he's like, slice me in the front, because slices in the back are, you know, that's not what an honorable swordsman has. So you know, this dude hit him with the smoke 1-2, just right across the chest, you know, almost killed him. Luffy just goes over there, like, doesn't really care about it at all. And the dude's like, hey, man, you got balls. So, what's your name too? So then he just leaves. Don Krieg tries to throw some heat. He ends it right there. Essentially, they rescue the restaurant boat back, and then Sanji joins them as a cook. So now we are. Oh, Don Krieg gets defeated. He sucks. So then. We're on episode 31 now. And now you're going to learn a lot about Nami. So Nami originally said, like, hey, I'm part of your crew. And while all this other stuff was going on that restaurant ship, Nami took to going merry and she left. So essentially, they track Nami down to this little, like, it's called like Kokoyashi Village or something like that, or Kokoyashi, and it's like Nami's hometown. And essentially, what happened is, for Nami's backstory, when she was a little girl, these they're fishermen. I think that's what they're called. They're like fish people. So it's like they're like super yolked sharks and like octopuses, and like they got like buzzsaw nose and like razor sharp teeth, and they're like evolution and mankind and all that jazz, and they're like way stronger than like the normal guy. They like took over this village, and they make this whole island like pay taxes, and then Nami wants to like buy her village's freedom, so she like makes a deal because he learned that she could draw sea charts because she wanted to be a navigator. So essentially she just, for her whole life, she's been trying to make enough charts to buy back her village, but then at the end he broke his promise, and then like he had like this corrupt dude from the Navy who looked like a rat come and take all of her money that she's had saved up, and then like finally she's just like, Luffy, like, I need your help, man. I'm like, I fucked up. And so essentially like takes his hat off and like puts it on her, and he's like, I'm about to go throw some hands. Zoro takes care of this octopus like it's no problem. Sanji's in there kicking away. And essentially you learn about like Nami's mom dying when she's little, so it's like there's this huge battle going on. Luffy throws hands against the main guy, the main fisherman, who you did learn, by the way, were one giant group, and then they had a little verbal cackle back and forth, and then I don't know the reasons. I'll probably go into it more, but they split up. So that's why this secondary group, who I presume now is the weaker fishermen, they went and took over an island because, you know, they had nothing better to do. So now Luffy's essentially freed this town, and Nami set sail, so now they've got their crew of Usopp, Nami, Sanji, Zoro, and Luffy. So you got your captain, you got your navigator, you got your cook, you got your swordsman, and then you've got your he's a maintainer slash sniper, but he's like not that good of a character at all. Episode 45, Luffy Space finally gets put on a poster. That's when you get reintroduced to Buggy. They start fighting over their captain's place, and essentially, like, Buggy comes back, and it's kind of like a 4 or 5 little filler. It's a little 4 or 5 filler. And they're essentially on the island now. They're on the last island in the East Blue before they go into the Grand Line. So they hit this island, and you're introduced to 2 characters with Devil Fruit powers. You're introduced to Captain Buggy again, and then this mysterious female. She used to be that fat, ugly chick from like episode like 1 or 2 or whatever, and then he like punched her in the face, and now she's like super skinny because she ate like a gum fruit where like attacks slip off of her. So they're both looking for Luffy for revenge, and the only reason Luffy's on this island essentially is because he wants to see the last thing that Gold Roger saw, who is the one who, oh yeah, by the way, let's take a pause. The entire show is based off of this one pirate named Gold Roger who had this huge treasure pile, and then essentially he eventually got captured by the Navy somehow, and he left his treasure called One Piece somewhere on the Grand Line. So whoever essentially gets that One Piece, they'll become king of the pirates, and Luffy wants to be king of the pirates. So that's why they're doing everything that they're doing. But so Gold Rogers got hung in this island right before the Grand Line, and Luffy wanted to see what he saw before he got hung. And then there's a scenario where Luffy was like about to die, like no one was about to save him, and then he just got saved, just like barely. But he wasn't scared to die, and everyone was like, "Wow, he reminds me of Gold Roger." And so they're on this island, and there's this Navy dude called Captain Smoker. And Captain Smoker's like, "Hey, Luffy, you can't go on the Grand Line until you beat me." And essentially, Luffy escapes because of like interference from other characters. And then they're just like, okay, let's go to the Grand Line. So then they go into the Grand Line, and they rode like this crazy mountain, and they're on the Grand Line. And there's a couple of fillers here and there through like the late 50s, and um, they kind of explain how the Grand Line works. So a magnet pointing north doesn't work because the magnetic poles from all the islands. So they have to use this little watch that charges, and once it's charged with the island's magnetic field, it points to the next closest island, and then they have to sail to that island, and then henceforth, and that's how they travel the Grand Line. And Nami's charting all these places, and if you want to go from like one island to another island, you can get a permanent watch thing, so it's always going to be set on that island no matter what. I have no idea how they make the second one yet, but and if you're like, oh, I know exactly what those are called, and I'm mad because he's butchering it, then hey man, that's on you. So they essentially sail to this island, um, where they meet this chick with blue hair. Her name is Mrs. Sunday. So they get introduced to this. They land on a bounty hunter island, so they think they're all bounty hunters, and they're all trying to take down Zorro and Luffy, and they ended up proving too much for them. But Miss Sunday works with like Mr. 8, and based on rank structure, 8 is pretty strong, and then 7 stronger, henceforth all the way down to 1, and then Mr. 0 is the strongest man in the crew. So they took out Mr. 8, Mr. 3. I don't even know, like, every, like, Mr. 3 has, like, a Miss Sunday or Miss Merry Christmas. I don't make up these names, but they essentially beat number 4 already, like it was no big deal. He might have been number 5, but he was this dude, and his entire body's like a bomb, so he can, like, pick his boogers and, like, flick them at you, and then they explode. But what happens is this little otter riding this vulture. He's kind of like the main communicator. They're part of the punishment squad, and they discovered that Miss Sunday was actually a princess who was infiltrating this evil organization to find out who's in charge, because that secret organization is taking down her hometown of Alabasta, her home country, her home little island of Alabasta. So she infiltrated this organization, and which ended up making her run into Luffy's crew on this bounty hunter island. And then they find out, like, hey, now we gotta go do this story now because we gotta go to Alabasta to save this chick. So they picked up an extra crew member because they promised they'd go help her. You get introduced to this chick. She can make any part of her body bloom, because I think the bloom fruit. But you get introduced to her. She's pretty powerful. She supposedly like kills this person's friend, but she's important later down the line. So they go to this island. They do this 2-part story about these giants and how they're fierce warriors, and they're like way bigger. They're like bigger than Tyrannosaurus Rexes. They're like huge. They're like 4 times that size. And essentially, Nami gets bit by this bug, and they still got to rescue this princess, and she's dying. And then the paper came by a seagull, and they're like, "Oh snap! Alabasta's like, it's getting hectic over there because like the rebel army." So they have to go save Nami because she's their navigator. So they sail to the next island. It's this like snow-covered island, and then that's where you meet Chopper, and you do this backstory with Chopper, how like nobody liked him, and he had a human fruit or whatever his fruit's called. He transforms. He's got like 7 transformations total, as at the moment, and his reindeer herd. He's a reindeer. I don't make these. I don't write these. I'm just reviewing. He's a little tiny reindeer, and his like clan kicked him out, a reindeer or herd or whatever you want to call him. And then the humans were like, "Oh, that's a monster." I mean, you live on the Grand Line, and you have these like snow rabbit bunny things, like, and you all bow to a bear. By the way, on the same island, like this bear walks by, like a super tall bear, and they're like, "Oh, it's accustomed to bow to him." But this little talking reindeer like freaks you out, and you call him a monster. I don't get like your purpose there, but so he's got this like hatred towards humans, and the only person that was ever nice to him was his doctor who died, and then he's like, "Hey, make Chopper a doctor," because that's all he's wanted to do his last 4 years hanging out with me. So now this like super old lady charges people like a lot of money because she's the last doctor on the island, because the king took all the doctors on the island and sailed on a ship when he got kicked off the island in the first place, and he was trying to outlaw doctors. Anyways, so you meet Hopper, and then his name's Wapol, by the way. He's King Wapol, and then Chopper's super amazed by Luffy's tenacity and how far he'll go, and he's like still hanging the flag and saying like, hey, by the way, you're the guy who was nice to you, his flag still flies because I'm holding it up here. So Wapol's attacking him, and he's skinny, and Nami's still recovering in bed, and this whole cherry blossom thing story wraps up where they shoot cherry blossoms into the snow clouds, and then it rains pink snow, so it looks like cherry blossoms because it's warming everyone's heart on the island. I don't make this up. So, anyways, you're through Chopper's story, so now they've got their medic, and then you're sailing on to Alabasta. So you hit up Alabasta, and not only is the Navy there with Captain Smoker and the chick who sucks at sword fighting at the moment because Zoro's just like way too OP at the moment. They get to this island, they run into Mr. 2, and they didn't know he was Mr. 2. Mr. 2 is this guy who can shapeshift his face. He's kind of like I'd say a cross-dresser, but he wears ballet clothes, and I don't make this up. So they run into one of their main bad guys right off the rip who can change his face. They get to the island. It's a huge desert. It hasn't rained in years. But Mr. Zero is the person who everyone loves on the island. His name is Crocodile. And Crocodile, he's this big ox of a man. And his gum power, his double fruit power is desert, so he can like turn his whole body into sand. He can dry places out. He can like make like sand tornadoes and sandstorms. He can dehydrate you, and he's got these giant banana crocodiles that like swim in his like casino. And so anyway, so Luffy's just like, "Hey man, I'm looking for Crocodile." And then you get introduced. So Luffy runs into this bar, runs into Captain Smoker, but he runs into this mysterious guy with like an orange hat, and his name is Ace. And Ace is Luffy's brother, and then you get like that kind of background just a little bit, but you didn't know that Luffy had a brother, and like he helped him escape. So Luffy's brother's on the country because he's looking for a character named Blackbeard, because Luffy's brother is the first commander for some division for the Whitebeard Pirates, who's the giant guy with not actually a white beard, but he's got like a white mustache, and he's like the world's strongest man, and he's like even taller than these Vikings. He's just like this giant man who drinks like his beer out of like a barrel of whiskey, but it's like that's just one beer for him. So anyways, so that's who Luffy's brother's a part of. And then like once he finds out like, oh, this guy named Blackbeard's not here, deuces, that's really my only reason, but hey, I just introduced another character to you, so now like we're trying to keep you guys are you not entertained? So there's some splitting up. Baroque Works is what they call the secret organization, and then they finally summon everybody together because on the island with the Vikings, they defeated Mr. 3. He's a guy who had that's who it was. So he's a guy who had a candle on his head, and he can manipulate wax. And then this chick who had paints could like paint like green on you, and you'd be like happy or whatever. Like you wouldn't want to fight, you'd just be like laughing. However her colors worked, they beat them essentially. But without diving into too many details, they capture Luffy, they capture Zoro, Nami, and Captain Usopp. in this like cage, but it's made out of this stuff from the bottom of the ocean that mimics the ocean, so it makes people with gum powers um, weak. So essentially, like that's what the Navy builds their cells out of and shoots some of their net material out of its stuff. So people with gum powers will become weak because they can't use their powers because of whatever that rock is. So, anyways, so Crocodile's this dude, and like you see like how powerful he is. Essentially, he kills Luffy the first time. Like Luffy couldn't punch him, and then he gave him 5 minutes to live. Luffy escaped, and then like Luffy went in for another whack. He stabbed Luffy like right in the chest with his giant golden pirate hand, his hook. But then Luffy like got a little bit of water on him and realized he could grab him, so Luffy's dead. And then you've got the Princess of Alabasta, Miss Sunday. She's riding towards the city to stop the rebel army from attacking, and this is all of a ploy to have as many people get killed by Crocodile. And so, Chopper has a fight with Usopp, and then Mr. Two, who's the dude with the swans, who like can change his face, he's fighting Sanji, and they have like a martial art kickoff. Zoro's fighting this dude who's like covered in steel. Nami's using her like new tool that Usopp built her against this chick who can essentially be like she can make spikes come out of any part of her body. She does these crazy combos. So everyone's like fighting different characters, and they're working their way through Baroque's works, and they finally knocked off everybody else. And then they finally knock off everybody else, and there's rumors of Luffy's death, and then Crocodile reveals himself in front of the king and in front of the Princess of Alabasta. And he tells this story, and he goes, "It doesn't matter because I'm going to blow up the whole town." So everyone's scrambling to find this giant cannon that's going to kill everybody but him, and then he's just going to restart from scratch because he's secretly after this element or whatever it's called. It's some secret that Alabasta has, and he's there to get that so he can essentially take over the world with whatever that is. So, basically, Luffy comes back though, and he's like, "Crocodile, you're not going to escape from me this time." He's got a bunch of water, finds his weakness. This is where you see some like creativity from Luffy. He's really straightforward, and the thing is, like, Luffy's character at this point, it's really developed into somebody that's I wouldn't say cocky. He's just like so determined. Like, he's so determined of a main character where he's just like, "I'm gonna go do this. Like, see you later." Like, not a care in the world. He's never like worried about a situation. He's always like, "Hey man, we gotta eat. Don't matter who's trying to bring it. Like, we're trying to eat, son." So he's got this like, I wouldn't call it. He just knows what he's gonna do, and he's gonna do it. So, everyone's like, "Okay, cool." And then Luffy essentially finally beats Crocodile. It's a good fight. And then you see the chick with the hands. So essentially, Crocodile betrayed her. She can grow hands out of any part of her body. So she can like grow a hand out of your neck and like choke you with it. It's crazy. So Luffy like rescues her, and she says something cool like, "Who gave you permission to rescue me?" And he was like, "Why would I need permission? Who are you to tell me what to do?" One of those things. So, and she can read these old school. She's an archaeologist, or whatever that word is. She can basically archaeologist. Wow, I'm stupid. So she can read this old. All these old symbols that nobody else can, called like polymographs or whatever. I have no idea what they're called. So Luffy rescues her, so she joins their crew because they escape Alabasta and they escape the Navy. They do a little side quest called the Rainbow Mist. So it's kind of like a mini arc just to get you from one point to the next. So we're into episode 145-ish. Luffy now has a pretty good crew. They land on the next island, and the island's called uh, Jaya. No, actually, they're going to the next island, but there are little watch things pointing in the air, and they're like, "That's weird." And so they land on this island called Jaya, which is near this island in the sky, supposedly. And they get there, and then you start seeing Luffy mature more as a captain because of his time spent in Alabasta. Um, and there's this dude who's got springs for legs, and he's like, "Oh, I can beat you. It's no big deal." But Luffy like takes care of him one too because he's mad because he went and put hands on this dude who's been trying to prove that his like great grandfather wasn't a liar. So you're into Family Noland the liar arc, and he helps Luffy get to the sky because he knows when these giant ruptures happen out of the ocean. So he like builds their boat, and Luffy goes and throws hands, and like uh, with Bellamy's the dude's name, and he like throws hands and like smokes him pretty easy. And Luffy's like, anybody else want a piece of this? Essentially, he goes back to the boat, and that's when like Blackbeard, who this character that you briefly get in one episode, like he appears in this arc, and he's like, oh, who did this? Luffy? Oh, that's an easy 100 million. So it's like him and like four gangsters, and like get on this like little log ship. He's like, yeah, let's just go take him down and get 160 million berries real fast. You know what I'm saying? So like Luffy's like got this. They got the Going Merry, and it's got some wings on it, and they build it. And right before Blackbeard has his first real interaction with Luffy, Luffy's ship blasts off into the sky. Blackbeard's ship falls apart. They didn't make it. And here comes Skypiea. Skypiea is when we start to see Luffy's, I'm going to say, power altogether. There's God. There's Old God. There's the Shandorians, I think that's what they're called, who are like this Native American tribe, and they have essentially lived on this they lived on that island called Jaya, and then half the island burst into the sky, so they call it the Earth, but it's just ground. It's just an island, and then everyone thinks just the real physical Earth island is heaven, and only God, who's like in charge, he's this dude who's made out of lightning. Only he can step foot, and he can literally kill you if you like say his name wrong. And then he's got four priests, and they all got crazy superpowers. So like everyone's like super strong, and then there's this like civil war that happens because Luffy's crew takes down one of the priests right off the rip, and they're like, oh, they're kind of vulnerable now because one of the priests is dead. So the Shinorians or the Shandians or whatever, I don't care, they fight God's army and the priest, and it's this huge long battle. You get the history of this island. You meet some pretty powerful dudes here that everyone's. There's a giant snake that's super duper powerful too, and the snake was alive like 400 years ago, and now he's like the biggest snake anyone's ever seen. But essentially, Luffy, the whole reason he was up there was to ring the bell for the dude who got smoked by Bellamy, so he could prove that his great times a million grandfather wasn't a liar. So he rang the bell. Everyone on sea level could hear it. He throws hands with God, takes him down. Zorro takes down like a main dude who's got a 0 survival rate for his battle. Chopper got a good fight in him. But you kind of start seeing, like now you start seeing like some better fights and how strong Luffy is, and he'll go to any ends whatsoever. So they take this giant octopus and they float down to this fortress, and Luffy meets the leader of the fortress, and he's just like, I'll leave when I want to. You don't tell me what to do. I'll leave when I'm ready to leave. And even though he had all these traps and plans set, and no one's ever escaped from this island, Luffy escaped by using essentially the only thing he thought he couldn't do. So he's like, well, the only way they can escape is if they fly. And then Luffy discovered a way to fly with an octopus. I don't write this stuff. I'm just telling you. But they escape from this inescapable forest. And once they escape this forest, they land on this island where I'm at right now, where they meet the Foxy Pirates, and they're right now the Foxy Pirates are playing the games where if you lose a game, you can lose your crew members, and if you lose your crew members, then how you gonna be king of the pirates when you lost your, doctor or whatever. So essentially, that's a brisk briefing over the story. But how do I feel about it? Like I said, like some of my past animes, like Naruto, or I have watched Bleach. Those main characters know they need to get stronger, and I guess Luffy does it at a point too, because I know he excels where he's at, but he's always just like, I would call it a different determination on how he knows he's going to get whatever he's going to get done. So what I'm saying is, I like his attitude, because he's just like at one point they were sneaking around that fortress hiding, and Luffy's just walking like, I don't care, like who cares, man, like I'll just throw hands with anybody here, So it's kind of like a little bit dumber, but at the same time, like he just knows he's gonna win, like it's no big deal. But overall, I'm liking the series a lot. There's a lot of episodes altogether. You just got to keep at it. I'm trying to watch 3 a day. Like I said, I'm on 210, and by the end of February, I'm trying to be on 300. I'm essentially trying to get it done this year. So, who knows? But, yeah, that was the JT Show, episode 17. It was all about anime. Let me know how I did. If you didn't like it, tell me why. Go like and subscribe on all that jazz. JTofJville.com, Instagram JTofJville, Twitter JTofJville, and Venmo JTofJville. But signing out for the JT Show.